RPGs or role-playing games have been one of the most popular genres in gaming from the very start. And because of that, there have been many, and I mean way too many RPGs over the years. And there are even more coming this year. Games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are already making waves in the industry, and people have started saying that this might win the Game of the Year this year, even if GTA 6 gets released. Bold statement, who knows? But today we'll be looking into some of these best RPG titles that were announced or already released this year. Without further ado, let's get started. At number 15, we have Lost Soul Aside, developed by Ulti-Zero Games. It looks like Devil May Cry combined with Final Fantasy. The world and environment is definitely inspired by Final Fantasy games, while the combos and other combat mechanics look similar to Devil May Cry. If it's the combination of those two giant titles, then sign me up. Not much information is known about this game for now. All we know is that you embark on a journey to save your sister and the whole of humankind from the dimensional invaders, which I assume are the bosses and the minions you fight in the trailer. Apart from that, it's an action RPG game where you would need to upgrade your stats, your weapons, defeat various monsters and bosses, and conquer the world. It was originally a project by a single developer, which became popular enough for Sony to chime in and publish it worldwide. Looking at the visuals and the gameplay, it seems to be pretty good. No release date has been announced yet, but it is set to release sometime in 2025 for PlayStation and PC. At number 14, we have Neo Berlin 2087, developed by Elysium Game Studio. Anyone want more cyberpunk-like game? Well, I do. Neo Berlin 2087 is a futuristic action RPG game set in, as you might have guessed, in Berlin. The story begins on a dark and gloomy night when the chief of the police department is murdered. The player takes on the role of Nolan, who himself suffers from trauma of his past. He is tasked with rescuing and keeping the daughter of the chief safe as she contains the key to solving the murder. The game is set in future, so you will have flying cars, edgy weapons, and people with tattoos, as you know that's what people think of when you describe the future. The visuals looks good. I was excited looking at the trailer because almost all the RPG games, at least the good ones, are based on the medieval era or in a fantasy world. I want something in the future or something in a modern era. This one ticks all those boxes. As for the release date, nothing has been announced yet, but it is set to be released sometime this year as well for PC. At number 13, we have Neverness to Everness, developed by Hota Studio. It's a new action RPG game which will be free to play. Set in Heterio, I hope I'm saying it right. The player plays an appraiser that explores the world and fights hostile forces as they advance through the story. You can explore the vast open world in what looks like cars and trains, fighting various different forces. The combat style looks really cool and fast-paced. This kind of hack and slash type of combat blends in really well with the anime style characters and environment. There are also powers or portals that you can use to traverse through the world. I really don't know much about it as they haven't revealed a lot as of yet. There will be different characters you can choose from to play the game, and I'm hoping each of them would have different abilities and skills that would make them all viable options. This game is coming out just like the other ones sometime this year on PS5, PC, and mobile. At number 12, we have Where Winds May, developed by Lindsay and published by 505 Games. This is the one I have my eyes on. It's a full-blown fantasy RPG game with epic-looking monsters and very interesting-looking weapons. Many games don't really like to call their games Souls-like. This one just straight up announces it as Souls-like, and it looks great. The dodge and parrying system shown in the trailer looks great and smooth, which is the biggest concern for any game in the genre. FromSoft games are not really hard to replicate, but the way the combat works and feels is almost impossible to recreate. If this game does that, it should go down as one of the best Souls-like games ever. The visuals of the game also surprised me a little. I really like it. But I am concerned about the performance for this game because of all the particle stuff floating around when you or the enemy uses their abilities. It's set during the late Ming Dynasty and the people are suffering from the feathering disease, which turns humans into monsters. You are a female pirate who suffers from the same disease, but you are able to harness the powers of the monsters and turn the tides against them. Sounds promising, but we will have to wait and find out. The game is scheduled to release for the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. At number 11, we have Vikings Dynasty, developed by Toplitz Productions. It's a survival base building RPG. where you have to survive the harsh conditions of your island, which you landed after surviving a shipwreck. As the sole survival, you will be tasked to collect resources, build, and upgrade your base. As you grow your settlement, more and more Vikings will join you and you can make your own town. You can trade, conquer more areas, or even take to the seas to expand your influence. The main talking point of this game is that there will be seasons, as in the weather, summertime followed by wintertime, and so on, and you will have to equip yourself accordingly. The premise of this game sounds really promising. I don't know how different this will be from any other survival RPG game, but at least this one should be a good one, even if there isn't anything too unique. The game is coming out for PC only. At number 10, we have Gothic 1 Remake, developed by Alchemia Interactive. It seems like we can't escape the remake season as more and more studios are cashing in easy money with the remakes, but some of them actually turn out to be really good, like last year's Silent Hill 2 remake. It was a good one in my opinion, and I hope I can say the same about Gothic 1 Remake. It's a classic game and was the first one by Piranha Bytes. We all know and love Piranha Bytes, and when Alchemia took over the development of the remake, they sought to revitalize the fan-favorite game and modernize it to bring it to today's audience. The studio said that the core gameplay will remain the same, but they will be fixing some of the issues and will change some things here and there. So if you have never played the game before, you could try it out. The devs said that the most exciting part of this game was the AI, which decides on the sequences of animations that follows the previous one, which can result in NPCs and the main character to have realistic movements and actions, which in theory sounds cool, but how much attention does any player actually give to the walking animation anyways? The game is set to be released for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. At number 9, we have Avowed, developed by Obsidian Entertainment. Avowed is a full fantasy-driven RPG game which has some really interesting mechanics. First off, you can play both in first-person and third-person mode, which is not that unique. But the interesting part about the game is the dual-wielding system. Why, you ask? Well, you can dual-wield any two different weapons and can make spells and attacks or projectiles to deal massive damages with combos. Like, one example that the devs gave was to use a free spell with a wand on one hand and a melee weapon to strike down the frozen enemies for huge damage with a sword on your second hand. There are a lot of opportunities to min-max the setup, which I know a lot of people will like. The game, however, is not open world like the other RPGs. Instead, it's a semi-open world game with huge areas to explore in any given region. I don't really mind semi-linear games because it gives the devs a concentrated area to focus on, and the legendary game studio Obsidian is known for making these smaller types of games instead of those large ones. Avowed is set to release on February 18 for PC, Xbox Series X and S. At number 8, we have Ballad of Antara, developed by Tipsworks Studio. It's a new free-to-play action RPG and has similar vibes like that of Dark Souls games. The enemies, the dark and gloomy environment, and the bosses look similar, and the combat looks Souls-like as well. But there are also similarities with Genshin Impact as well, because they both have the same multi-character system and possible gacha mechanics. The combat is faster than Souls-like, similar to Black Myth Wukong style, but this game might have been in development before the game was released, so taking inspiration from the Monkey King's fighting style might not have been possible. Besides that, the game looks pretty. With all these inspirations mixed into a single free-to-play game, really gets me excited. The one thing I am worried about is that I've never heard of Tipsworks Studio, the developer behind this game. It's not impossible for them to make a masterpiece. We have seen it with Black Myth Wukong, but I still have my doubts. We still have time though, because the game does not have a fixed release date yet, but is set to release in 2025 for PS5 and PC. At number 7, we have Assassin's Creed Shadows, developed by Ubisoft. It might be the game that makes it or breaks it for the company, as a lot is riding on this title. Ubisoft's stock prices were plummeting, and it's mainly because their last few titles were absolutely horrible. I say were because I have no idea what's the price right now. But Ubisoft are determined to make Assassin's Creed Shadows the best game they could possibly make, because if this fails, I don't think Ubisoft could hold on. Tencent is already on the verge of buying the company, and this might tip the ball in their hands. The release date of this game has been delayed twice already, which might be good news because they are looking to make it perfect. You can play as two different characters, Yasuke the brute and powerhouse of the two who smashes through stuff in order to complete the mission. He is not much of a stealth guy, although you can play him and still use stealth. And then we have the shinobi Naoe. I hope I'm saying this right. The stealth queen who can use her abilities to sneak in areas and assassinate enemies to get the mission done. It looks good and many people got the chance to play this already, and they say the part they got to play was really good as well. We will have to wait and find out. The game is coming out on March 20th for PS5, PC, Xbox Series X and S, and iPad. At number 6, we have first Berserker Khazan, developed by Neopal. It serves as the prequel to Dungeon Fighter Online, which itself is an online RPG game. First Berserker is set 800 years before the events of Dungeon Fighter Online, and looks and feels almost completely different. It has Souls-like combat style with a faster pace than the Souls games. This is sort of becoming a norm now, with games making the combat Souls-like because it's so fun. With each move there are consequences. If you move and time your moves correctly, you are rewarded, and if you fail to do that, you are punished. The game takes place in the continent of Arad and explores the story of Khazan, the main hero. The main focus of the game are its bosses, and it could become something like Black Myth Wukong, which I'm totally excited for. The art style of the characters are anime-like, which I don't really mind, but people are split between either hating it or loving it. Let me know which side you fall on. First Berserker Khazan is coming out on March 27th for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. At number 5, we have Fable, developed by Playground Games. Some might know that there was a trilogy of Fable games that were not very popular. This game aims to reboot the series and bring the story of Fable to the newer audience. The series was believed to be over after the release of Fable The Journey in 2012 and the cancellation of Fable Legends in 2016 after the closure of Lionhead Studio, the original developers of the game. But in 2017, there were some speculations that the game might get a reboot, and finally in 2020, Microsoft finally announced that they will be publishing the new Fable game that was being developed by Playground Games. Now that's a long time of development for a game, and it should be a good one if you ask me. The main attraction of this game is that every decision has a vast impact in the world and how the story progresses. There are some choices which change the world entirely, which is quite unique. How different the outcomes are is not known, but the endings and even the mid-game might be completely different for two players, which is exciting. As for the other gameplay aspects, it should be a normal RPG game. It is set to release in 2025 for Xbox Series X and S and PC. At number 4, we have Phantom Blade Zero, developed by S-Game. The player takes on the role of Soul, an elite assassin in the service of a mysterious and powerful organization known as the Order, as he embarks on a mission to uncover the truth behind the murder of the Order's patriarch. A new Souls-like RPG game which has a lot of promise. There is multiplayer, but it's only for the endgame content. I don't really understand it, but almost all of the game is single player. While it does have all the qualities of the genre's combat style, the fighting is fast and has some pretty flashy moves. Just like Black Myth Wukong, you have two primary dual-wielding weapons and two secondary weapons like hand cannons, axes, lance, and other different types. Even though the game's description says that you're an elite assassin, the various trailers and gameplay showcases the all-out combat style for the game, which does reminds me of Assassin's Creed a lot, which might not be a good thing. This game is coming out for the PS5 and PC. At number 3, we have Alkahest, developed by Pushon, a game by a relatively unknown studio. This game shows promise. It's an action RPG game set in the kingdom of Kadanor. In the world of Alkahest, there is a power imbalance between the three major houses. You play as the son of a battle lord and start out as a nobody. The way to gain power and fame is to battling your way through the goblin hordes, engaging in conversations with the local townsfolk, and showing your power in alchemy. Yes, this game instead of magic uses alchemy. Different ingredients mixed together to form something that could work as a grenade or set something on fire. This game also has dynamic fighting and combat, meaning you can use your environment to your advantage. Dropping a tree on the enemy or pushing them off a cliff are all on the table. It does look like goblins are the main enemy in the game. I don't have any information whether there are any other types. It's a melee-focused first-person game and is set to be released on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. At number 2, we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, developed by Warhorse Studio. By the time this video comes out, the game would already have been out for a week now, and we all know how good this game is. It's a survival action RPG game with so many different things to do. It's the second installment in the series and continues right from where the first game left off. But the game can be played without completing the first one because it gives most of the context when some things comes up. But if you want to know who some of the characters are and why they are there, then you could look up some YouTube videos. As for the game itself, it's a first-person game with a very difficult combat system. That was the main issue for many people for the first game, and the devs did refine it. It's still very difficult, but when you get the hang of it, defeating 2 or 3 opponents at the same time feels really rewarding. The game's progression is a slow one, but a satisfying one at that. It's already out for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. At number 1, we have Monster Hunter Wilds. The first position should have been obvious because Monster Hunter Wilds is already breaking records. With some absurdly high numbers of wish lists on Steam, we can see why people are excited for this game. We all know by now what a Monster Hunter game is. You play as an unnamed hunter and travel into the Forbidden Lands, a land filled with monsters and has very few people living in it. You go there to find a missing member of your party. It's similar to Monster Hunter Worlds in many parts. Their weapons are exactly the same, but some of them have been tinkered to make them more exciting. They also have added a mount called Sekirat, which you can call upon to roam the vast open world of this game. There is a beta test still live, I believe. People got to play the first monster and got to explore some of the areas in the game, and almost everyone loved it. I for one am very excited for this game. The best part is we don't have to wait too long because the game is coming out on February 28 for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And those were the best RPG games coming out this year. Which game are you excited about? Is there anything or any game I missed? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. If you want, you could watch this video which tells you what the best PS5 games are that came out last year. See you in the next one.